Talking all things entertainment, this is Sherri Pullum in the studio with Dreamers Unite. Mastering independent film with director and producer Nicole Franklin. Hey Dreamers, and welcome to Dreamers Unite in the studio. Oh, thank goodness we are back, another episode. We hope that you're enjoying all the great information from our guests and of course the nuggets that I throw your way. This lady, this powerhouse that I'm going to bring on today to chat with me and to share information with you is just a veteran in the entertainment industry. She is a filmmaker, award-winning filmmaker, video editor, a journalist, a writer, director, producer. I mean, she has covered so many aspects in the entertainment industry. I don't know. I don't think she sleeps. I really don't. But she does it all with such grace and style. And who am I talking about? Nicole Franklin. And she's also a very dear friend, and I'm just honored and privileged to have her come and chat with us today and to take time to be with us. Nicole, I thought I wore a lot of hats, but girl, you are out here shining bright, and I so appreciate you taking your time to come and share with us and share with our dreamers, so thank you.
I thank you for asking. That's so wonderful that we get to spend time together in this format because this is where you shine, especially. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. So we're going to jump right into it, okay? You know, Nicole, you do have such a vast career in this entertainment industry. So how did you really navigate between all these various opportunities and roles?
Yeah, I just think I saw something I wanted to share. There was a story that I wanted to share that I knew people wanted to hear about. I knew certain people wanted to see themselves on screen. And I knew that once everyone saw what I was seeing, that they would enjoy it as much as me. So what am I talking about? My first film was on Double Dutch Jump Rope. It kind of brought everything together. Those childhood playtime years where I jumped rope in front of our family home that really was my grandmother's home that we were living in for a moment before we moved. And it was in a wonderful neighborhood in the north side of St. Louis, the Penrose neighborhood, and where everybody watched you on the block. And, I was jumping double dutch, not thinking anything of it, except I got to spend time with people I did not see at school. So these were girls on the block that weren't at my school. But I was just really enamored with how well they jumped. And then, of course, that time we got to spend together and gossip. And it was really fun, But when I saw later that this was a childhood game that could turn into an international sport, I was like, wow, I want to do a film about that because I had wanted to be behind the scenes anyway. I grew up in front of the camera. I grew up on stage as well. And that was in the Midwest. But when I first moved to LA and then later moved to New York, where I spent the majority of my career, I knew that I wanted to be an independent filmmaker. Independent because certain stories are being told in Hollywood and supported by the studios. But if, excuse me, you aren't going to be supported by the studios, then you had to do it yourself and get the story out there. And I had the means to do that because wonderful people on an internship I was on and later in my television news career taught me how to edit. So I was editing video back in the day in the late 80s, early 90s. You did machine to machine. You were editing machine to machine with tape. So really getting the nuts and bolts of how to put something together, video together, story together, in a concise manner in a very quick time period because I worked in news television, got lucky enough to do that. And that taught me everything. So once I knew that I could have something that was filmed given to me or go out and film it myself, and then it actually educates you more when you're an editor what to go out and shoot. Then I knew that I could get a story done, and documentary was the easiest. That's not say easiest, it's not easy, but the most familiar art form that I could tell a story about this wonderful, again, childhood game that was turning into an international sport. That I could tell that story and share it with the masses. And it happened, how did I navigate it? I just, blind ambition, ignorance is bliss, all that when you're very young and you're like, hey, I'm going to go do this. And people recognize that when you have a passion about something, and they may join your team. And that's what happened when I moved to New York, is that independent cinema thrived in New York. And I met wonderful people that said, what do you need? How can I help? That meant the world to me and to my career. So thank you, New York. Thank you, St. Louis. And thank you, LA, for the people who also did that on some projects that I was working on, but taught me a lot, because I did really rely on my news family in LA to keep me sane while I was in Los Angeles, and keep me protected and keep me growing, as a storyteller as well.
You know what I love about this too is that you just saying thank you, because it's so important to recognize when we are, going after a dream, going after a goal, is just living in gratitude, right? And then appreciating the opportunities that we have. So I love that. Yeah. And I also love the fact of sometimes just, not knowing what the heck you're doing. You don't know what you're jumping into. So then you don't get so scared, right? So, well, I'm glad that you did all that you did, and you make such an impact with the films that you're doing. You've received many, many awards for films. And so as an independent filmmaker, often filmmakers will enter into film festivals, right? Yes. So let's talk a little bit about that, on how can you submit to a film festival and what to be aware of when you submit to a festival.
Absolutely. I didn't even know that was going to be the path. So here, let's go back to this blind ambition. I made this film and I said I'll sell it out of the back of my car. Now I'm in New York at this time. I don't have a car, but that was the, that methodology that I was going to go after. Sell it out of the back of the trunk of my car and somebody will buy it. Well, you first want to get to a screening, and it could be family and friends. It could be industry types. It could be your backers. But somebody at that screening, several somebodies you hope will be so excited that they'll say, hey, could you screen it here? Could you screen it there? A lot of people are looking for entertainment that also informs. And with documentary, that's what this was doing. It was also entertaining, and it also brought forth a culture and a lot of the elements of what brought about the love of something that united people, again, onto screen and into the hearts of hopefully those who are watching. It did mine. I knew it was going to do, for others. So I had a screening, and Filmmakers Library was the two women who ran it at the time were members of New York Women in Film and Television, where I was a member too. Still am. I love NYWIFT. Made a lot of dreams come true because of NYWIFT. They just know how to do that. And it's really us organizing. And they said, if you give us the last third of this feature I had made on Double Dutch Jump Rope, it covered 3 generations of women jumping rope. You give us the last third, those Double Dutch divas will distribute it. I was like, great. Now, at this point, I hadn't been in a film festival, but I had now an educational distributor. So that was something I didn't even know about, that educational distribution into libraries, universities, schools. That's like more than 100,000 customers at a higher price point than the $9.99, whatever DVDs were going for back then. So that was great, a lesson learned. But also, my co-producer had convinced me when I believe she brought it to me, Gina Vizzini, good friend still, she helped make the film happen. She could book anybody. I mean, we had somebody who was blind who was into double dutch in the film. So, and that's Gina,
Wow.
she's like, uncovering every type of story and putting it in. It was great. So she said, we should really be in the market. There is an IFP market, which was the Independent Feature Project back then. And the market is different than a festival. You still come to gather with filmmakers, but there are people there, distributors, other film festivals actually, to come and make a deal with your film and your product or you as a creative. And so I was like, okay, and I'm looking at these prices. I'm like, Gina, I can't afford this. This came out of my pocket. And she's like, we have to do it. We have to do it. So there is a buy-in, but you're not sure. You're unsure of the payoff. So it was a few $100s back in the day. I don't know what it is now, but got into the market. First, you got to get in. You got to pay the money, but first you got to get in. We got in. My first film came out, I guess that was the year 2000. So we were one of the very few Black documentaries in the market. In the market, you are put into a catalog and you have a photo that represents your film. And so I have this little girl mid-jump in between these double Dutch jump ropes. And it just kind of said it all. And then, of course, a description of how it happened and, who we were as crew and very small crew. And I believe we stood out,
Great.
and you can get screenings. And also the market, that particular market worked with us as filmmakers. I will never forget that they had a meeting of the filmmakers prior to the market. And they said, you all meet each other. You're your best resources because, getting that community vibe amongst us as creatives together and, really no competition. It's how do we help each other? If somebody was looking at our film and said, I want more of this, we could say, oh, well, you want to talk to so-and-so who's a colleague, another filmmaker. That was great advice. And then don't show anyone your film outside of the market because once the catalog is released, they're going to be calling. But you want them to have that market experience where that fever about, oh, I'm anticipating the opening, the first screening of this, the debut of this film, and you want them involved in that excitement, that aura. And that made all the difference because people did start calling. We did stand out of the catalog and they're like, can you send me a screener? I'm like, actually, we'll be screening on Sunday at this time, and then we can talk after. And then the market also set up meetings with distributors they thought would best match your film. Wow. And that's how I met Sundance Channel and we got on Sundance Channel. So that meant everything. So not only the market, again, this blind admission, I was out there saying we need to be in festivals. So I applied to 60 festivals.
Did you say, wait a minute, Nicole, did you say 60? Zero? Okay, yes. I just want to make sure we heard it right. 60. So yeah, you're okay if you apply for 60 to 100 even probably, right?
Yeah, no, you gotta
it could get costly though, right? Could that get costly?
Exactly. That's why Sherri was saying did you say that number?
Yeah.
Because it does cost. But a lot were free. And but I remember I applied to one that was $75 and it's a well-known one. And I was just like, oh, I believe in my film. We're gonna get in. Well, we didn't, but and I called and I said, we got the rejection letter before the cutoff date for the application deadline. And I said, I'm sorry, I got it that we were rejected, but are you still taking money of all these other applicants? They couldn't answer. But I'm just like, you should be put on notice that I'm going to tell everybody not to apply to your film festival because that is ridiculous. So you get some real scammers out there. Or just people that are, I guess, thriving off that application money. So you want to watch out for that. But we got into a number of film festivals. I don't remember the count, but we won 8 film festival awards.
Wow.
And that was really, really sweet, very special. And for my next projects, or even a couple of years later, people will request you to be a part of the festival again. Do you have anything for this year? And that's if you work the film festival circuit correctly the first time or even the second time you'll start getting invited back, and that's a great feeling. And so that was back in the day. Now you have sites like filmfreeway.com
That's
where you can
right.
just go in and search, what matches your genre. It could be horror, it could be personal documentary, it could be, something that's more news focused, what's out there in the news. It could be, romance, everything. You've got like more than, well, at one point it was 5,000 festivals on that site, but it could be more. It could be like 10,000 at this point. But at least you get a breakdown of what everyone's looking for, early deadline fees and all of that. But after the first and second film, maybe I stopped paying for festivals, and I still, was being screened. Again, there are those invitational screenings that you get, and then things you make happen because your product is the perfect partner for an organization that is trying to get a message out, and it's best to tell it through cinema.
What a journey. I mean, what a ride with that, Nicole. I think, too, the takeaway for this whole festival, right? Do your research.
Yes.
Right. And now, obviously, like you said, it's a little easier now because you can Google, festivals. But overall, just, I guess, one kind of something to give someone that's interested in submitting for a festival, and say they only want to submit to maybe 5 to 10. And also, how can they avoid being scammed? Like, you're an advocate, you're standing up for yourself. Not everybody does that or knows to do that. And I think that's a way too, people, to stand up for yourself and advocate so you can shut down a scammer for somebody else, right? We can stop them in their tracks. But yeah. So what are some ways, maybe just the top 1 to 3 ways, if someone's interested in submitting, how do you avoid the scams? Which festivals should you choose? How do you go about it?
I say start attending festivals. There's a vibe you get at certain festivals where it's like, I should be here, and a lot of times that's in the staffing and the founders of the festivals being present and providing that atmosphere. And guess what will happen? You'll meet the founder of the festival, and they might say, stay in touch with me. And when they do, stay in touch with them. Because one thing I noticed, I applied one time for Berlin, which is an A-list festival. We did not get in. This was a film I did recently. But I was like, that is in that's like my dream, is to be in the Berlinale, the Berlin Film Festival. And a friend of mine who's a prominent producer in Scandinavia, she said, you should call the festival programmer. I'm like, at Berlin, no one's going to answer me. She's like, you'd be surprised.
Wow.
I got an answer, and they said, I will take a look at your film. Because the thing is, they're getting 100,000 films. But to have someone respond and say, I will take a look at it. Now, they were only accepting in this particular section, I applied in a certain section. Not, I think they have to at this point, section it off. And so in this particular section, they only had like 30 features, again, out of 100,000. But it was nice for that person to say, I will take a look at it, because I can still go back to that person and either attend the festival and meet them in person, stay in touch. And maybe there's another way to be involved, being on a panel. But, it's your pursuit of finding your place in that world of that particular festival, that particular region, of the world or what have you, that's going to make it happen.
Got it.
They want someone that involved. And it was so funny. So my very first film was a feature on Double-Dutch Jump Rope. We did, as Filmmakers Library requested, make one, a shorter version just on the last third, which is the Double-Dutch Divas. So the Double-Dutch Divas was a film that traveled on its own as a 38-minute short. And I remember I submitted to the Dance on Camera Film Festival, and because I love dance, I grew up dancing. My sister's a dancer, choreographer in New York. And I was like, this will be different. We should be in this festival. And I got a response. I love it. I don't know where to put it, but we're going to have a side program in this gallery. Do you mind if we put your film there? And I'm like, as long as I can put Dance on Camera Film Festival,
Yes.
in our filmography, our resume, sure, and that was very sweet, because that was a special collection over there. We weren't at Lincoln Center, but we were, in this gallery, and that was fine because the festival program was there, had this, wonderful introduction. People came out to see it. So, take a chance, but also communicate.
Yeah, those are such great, I always call them nuggets. I think the biggest one too is do your research, dreamers. Which you can apply this to anything, not just getting into a film festival, and take a chance. Take a chance and go after every opportunity. From Nicole Franklin, boom, dreamers, there's a little nugget for you, okay? So we're going to shift gears really quickly because I know soon you've got to get out of here. And oh my goodness, Nicole, you're going to have to come back because there's so much more to talk about. But before you go and we move on to our next segment, I just want to ask you to quickly talk a little bit about Before You Go. Wow, that's really funny, right? Did you notice that little pun? No pun intended. Talk about your podcast Before You Go briefly. Just tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to jump into our next segment.
Yes, it's a podcast built out of love and admiration for our elders. So I had started a film, just a documentary short that I was going to do on a woman in New Jersey who was 100 years old with 90 piano students. I heard about her because my friend's granddaughter was one of her students, and I was just like, oh my gosh, has she been interviewed yet? And she's like, I don't think so. Do you mind asking her if she would mind being interviewed? Because something's there, Yes. Other than the fact that she's incredible and keeps it going. So we ended up doing this interview. It was 4 hours long. And all I did to start the interview was say, so tell me your story. She had always wanted to write a book. So this incredible story came out that I wasn't expecting about literally how music saved her life. Wow. Because she was abused as a child over and over and over and not allowed to speak to people outside of the house. You go to school, you come home, there's no extracurricular activities, no friends, because then you would expose what was happening inside the house. So music and the composers, the classical composers mainly, were her friends. And she luckily got out to get piano lessons and then eventually played the organ at church. But that was a struggle, and had to do that really sly, right? So here we are. I'm interviewing her February 2020. February 2020. So of course, the documentary is going to be how she influenced the lives of the young people she's working with. I have to come back and film them, taking the piano lessons, follow them a little bit. How did she change her life? Right. And boom, it's done. March 2020. Here's the pandemic. I can't be around a 100-year-old woman. Her students can't be around her. I forget it. The film is shot and then done. Like, it ain't happening.
Yeah, right. It's like that chapter is closed. That boat sailed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh no. And I'm listening to her voice because I can't get out of my head. I'm putting my headphones on and I'm just like, this needs to be a podcast. We've got to get her story out. And I didn't know anything about podcasting except that people were doing it. And I wanted her story out. And so let's see, that was like spring. By December, I had talked to Bryant Montagne, who's a journalist who loves interviewing 100-year-olds. Anytime he gets a chance to, he gets so excited and he posts pictures and stuff. So we both had that love for this, this grasp of, I was going to say Americana, but it's going to go around the world, actually. I will tell you about that plan. But this love of history, firsthand accounts, right? So by December 9th, we launched on all the podcast platforms. She was a two-parter. Maud Carroll, the piano teacher, she was a two-parter, because her story was so involved and so amazing. So that was episode 1 and episode 2. And by that time, we had been interviewing other people we found, 90-year-olds, 80-year-olds too, that's fine. And by October 2021, we were making our debut with Tavis Smiley's news station in Los Angeles, KBLA. We did a 1-year contract there.
Let me give that a little kudos shout out. Okay, wait a minute. Let's give that a little. That's nothing. Yeah, congratulations, Nicole.
KBLA Talk 1580, a great family of talk radio. Tavis Smiley, of course, the ultimate interviewer. He loved the show, and we were 6 a.m. on 6 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday mornings, and then eventually moved to drive time, morning drive Fridays before Dominique DePrima. So we're doing Fridays and Saturdays. It was wonderful. We did a 1-year contract because Bryant actually got hired at an NPR station in Florida, and I said, let's take a break because I had in my mind, actually, when I first met Miss Carol, how cool would it be to walk into a museum and walk into this soundscape of voices of the elders, before you go. And so when we were on this little break that happened October of 2022, a 1-year contract, I said to a friend of mine who's a curator, Halima Taha, and I said, Halima, I had always pictured before you go being a part of a museum exhibit, and wondering how to do that. And she's like, I think that's wonderful. And I think that's perfect. And I'm like, is it? Because, it's just kind of in my head. She calls back a couple of days later. She's like, wait a minute. You have to connect with my friend. He's got an exhibit. I just think you two together, it's going to work. And we have weekly meetings now with the talented artist, Anthony Morel, who is based in Amsterdam, but he's from the U.S., grew up in Memphis. His career was in New York, moved to Amsterdam, though. And so we are launching Inventors, Makers, and Movers. Before You Go was the opening act when you walk into this exhibit on Black inventors. We're launching in Memphis in 2024, the spring of 2024.
That is super. Okay, and so you're going to come back here, and we're going to talk and take a deeper dive into that. Maybe we'll have to come on location, really.
That would be nice.
Yeah, we might have to
end up in New York for sure, and New Jersey.
We will definitely be there. Nicole, I could talk to you forever. And I think, first of all, you're so humble. And so accomplished, and also such a visionary. And you act on that, being that visionary. And I think for me, the other reason I do the show is because I really want people to understand that just that small seed of inspiration, and then when you put it out there and you speak it, you ask for help, and you believe that it's possible, you're like that perfect example of showing that this podcast, not really even knowing what it is, but knowing that you were interested in these stories and passionate about it and telling it. And then now you're on, major station, Tavis Smiley. I mean, now you're with a gallery, that Berlin. You'll be calling her back, Berlin. Right. You made a mistake. I'm just kidding. Watch out, Berlin. Okay. But really, Nicole, I really thank you for sharing all of this valuable information, a part of your journey, helping people to kind of understand and be able to navigate their way just through these two small portions. The next time you come back, we'll talk a little bit more about, this podcast. We'll be there. Hopefully invite us.
Yes.
We will definitely come for opening of the curated exhibit. I would love that. I don't even want to get into the fact about my great-grandmother being 100 and the stories I've kept, or maybe I should, and share them with you. But
absolutely.
Yeah, yes, we will definitely do that.
Yes.
We will do that. I know we have a caller that is anxious to talk to you and ask a question. So we're going to wrap this segment up, and we're going to move on to our call-in segment. So we have a caller on the line and is going to ask a question to Nicole. So we have Chris on the line. So please say hello to Nicole, Chris.
Hi, Nicole. How's it going?
Hey, Chris. It's rocking and rolling over here. Nice to speak to you. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so nice to talk to you.
Ditto.
So you have a question for Nicole, right?
So Nicole, I followed your career, and you have a lovely, extensive career with so much experience. I know a lot of filmmakers are constantly thinking about how do I make the film. My question to you is, what is the best approach to the business side of filmmaking?
Yes, it's multi-level. It can be quite complicated or simple. But one thing that you have now pointed out with that question, Chris, is that filmmakers are generally not business people, and that hurts us. So we have to put on our marketing cap, and the marketing cap really starts with one question: who is your target audience? And you and I want everybody to see our films, but that's not the answer to the question. It really has to be pinpointed to a certain age group. Region is great too, where they live in the world, what their interests are, because you know what can happen then is that you can find a digital marketing team, and they are not so expensive. You can get the very expensive ones or ones that have, a lower tier, but they're following people's cookies, and it's very scary, in the grand scheme of things. But they follow what people's interests are, okay? And then they will directly market your film to that crowd. And look, if I had 5,000 people that were watching and talking about and doing some follow-up and some surveys on my product, I know that that's going to grow exponentially. So think about that number. How many do you want to watch this month? Do I want, 5,000 people a month, 10,000 people a month? It's all a numbers game, and really focusing on who that target audience is. Now, I do not suggest making a film just specifically for a target audience. That's you getting into the marketing world and starting there with your story concept, right? Then let's narrow down who is going to watch this, because out of the billions of people who live in the world, you're going to find your 5,000, 100,000, 1 million customers by just answering that question.
That's awesome. That's a lot of wonderful things and aspects to look into. It's fantastic.
Well, it came with years of stops and starts. I'd always hoped that because I gather people together in certain spaces. I have a group on Facebook called Nicole Films where I like people to communicate about films, and I celebrate people's wins and meet people and share ideas. And if we could just all get together and have a community and watch each other's films, that would be an audience, right? So I'm always trying to build community because, you can't do it alone. And we could all promote each other and help each other thrive, because the studio system's not going to be there for all of us. So we got to do it ourselves. And the audiences are waiting for new voices, new concepts, push this idea to the limit, show me something that I can learn from that, if you're working in horror films, I like suspense. I like thrillers. I've seen everything. Well, you haven't seen this, where you can shock and surprise people. And let's just build each other up.
I love that. That's amazing.
Did I not tell you, dreamers, that Nicole Franklin is amazing? Yeah. And Chris, and so are you. And we thank you so much for calling in. And I hope that you're going to get out your notebook or get out your phone and really start mapping out who is your target audience.
I already got those notes written down.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Chris,
Thank you, Chris.
For calling in. Continue to spread the word. What's your favorite podcast, Chris?
Dreamers Unite.
That's right. In the studio. Thank you again, Chris, and have a great day. Okay, so now we're going to move on. We have one last segment to go, and that is our dream game. Nicole, you ready?
I guess so. I'm scared.
I know everyone always gets scared with the dream game, but it's really all about you. All right,
Okay.
dream game next. Okay, we are back, and this is the segment where we're going to play a quick dream game. So, Nicole, you said you were already ready, so I'm going to ask you, what was your childhood dream, and are you living that dream?
Oh, yeah, to be on television. And probably it was more to make television. I don't know that I really wanted to be on television. I did acting and things like that, but to make television, yes, I have lived that dream. I have put that dream in my pocket and said thank you, full gratitude for the 30 plus years I did television. I am stepping away from being on television productions of others. If I come back into television, it would be something that I would produce and direct, and something probably of a smaller nature. So something on a streaming specialized tiny bit of time that it would take. It would be something different, something new, probably something immersive. Yeah, beyond television, I guess, is what I'd re-enter. But I did live a fantastic television dream for 30 plus years. I would start crying if I went into the details of how many wonderful people entered my life in order to help me do that. Television paid for my films.
Wow.
I just was in an incredible environment. I worked for the top shows at Network News, with some incredible teams and some really trying situations that we had to inform the world about, and I'm just very proud and honored.
I feel what you're saying, and this is a new dreamer's question in the dream game, because I was inspired this morning, and I, like you, feel like there's so many people that I want to thank. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if you got to do your acceptance speech now to thank people and walk in gratitude for that dream of people who helped you? So here you go, Nicole. Here's your opportunity to walk in that gratitude and thank, who helped you. So this is your acceptance speech. Your Dreamers Unite in the Studio award. You're just getting. Here you go.
That's very nice. Yes, you really tug at the heart there, Sherri, with a question like that.
Yeah, who would you like to thank?
Oh, there are too many people to thank in the industry. My nucleus, my family is who I have to thank the most. Indirectly and directly, they pushed me forward. So, mom, dad, grandparents, even one of my grandmothers who kept saying, "And you don't have a steady job? What is freelance?"
Ooh, I've heard that story. I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, I freelanced for 30 years, but that voice was in my head. It's got to be steady. So I was very much permalance, what they refer to as permalance, and that I worked every week somewhere, usually in the same facility. But I always had that voice in my head because things were different. She didn't understand, but she wanted me to be taken care of. And it was only me that was taking care of me.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody to fall back on, single and in the big city, right? So, I've got to thank my family. Thank God for putting the family that I had together, and the world I grew up in. It's accidental birth, my father would say. It's an accident by birth, like where we ended up in the world, growing up. And so, there were a lot of challenges growing up, and you want to give back a lot of them, but then it's like, kind of made you who you are, who you were meant to be. So, I guess grateful for all of that, but my family putting that, I'm the oldest of 3 women, 3 girls growing up. on the north side of St. Louis. I was actually born in New Jersey because my dad got a fellowship from a newspaper, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, to go learn about journalism when he challenged them by walking in and saying, "You need Black journalists in here. Do you write? No, I write, but I'm not a journalist." Like, we're going to show you, how journalists do it by sending you to school. So being born on the East Coast and then coming back to the East Coast later was full circle and wonderful for me. Wow. And I got to thank all of my film family, all of the family, my TV family. I made a family everywhere I went: Los Angeles, Chicago, I went to school, New York. And so just truly grateful for anyone who listened to something that I wanted to do and said, let's do it.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Nicole, that is beautiful. There's your acceptance. So you're already prepared now with your acceptance speech. And I just do think, though, really walking in gratitude as part of our journey. And I, like you, believe that everything that happens to us, good, bad, and different, I mean, it's all part of life, right? It's all a part of our journey. It makes us who we are. And these experiences, that's why I'm here now with Dreamers. That's how I met you, Nicole, right? As we journey through life and we make new connections and, new opportunities. So thank you so much for your acceptance speech. I have one more question for you, and that is, what's on the horizon for you? I mean, what's next? What's on your bucket list, so to speak? What dream?
Well, definitely, it's definitely during the museum tour fills my bucket list, because we want to turn the podcast Before You Go into an exhibit, and have the resources to do that. In that I have friends in the art world that have brought me on and said, yes, come join our exhibit, and it's touring the world. That fulfills a dream. I have met so many people in my life and in my travels, and I hate that I can't be in the same room with them and connecting with them. So as I travel, I would love to, reconnect in person, or have that time for, hey, I'm in town. Let's get together for breakfast or tea or something. I have to see you. So if I could do that, that's a dream. I want to see everybody again.
Oh, that is beautiful.
It sounds so simple, but from what we've been through with this pandemic and me having to relocate, I had to relocate to the Midwest, which was great that I spent time here, obviously, with family and friends here. But now to travel and drop in. Somebody told me that a long time ago, you are the drop-in diva. Okay, thanks. I'm going to now live that dream of being the drop-in diva.
Hey, listen, we just talked about it, right, a little bit offline about dropping in. We were like, I was like, when was the last time you were in town? And we're like, next time we're going to get together. So I'd love to be on that part of that list of you dropping in. Yeah, I can't wait so we can see one another. Yes, let's make it happen. One another in person. Nicole Franklin. Outstanding, phenomenal woman you are. I am grateful that you came today. And I know how busy you're. Thank you. And I know how busy your schedule is. So I appreciate your time, all the nuggets you shared, the inspiration, the wisdom, the encouragement. And I just wish you all the best. And listen, the reason we play these dream games too is so this is a community where we can affirm, right, what you're doing. Yes. And so we're going to hold that too in our hearts. And we're going to affirm that the museum Before You Go, that curated exhibit, that it is happening, that you also get a chance to connect and travel this world, not only to past friends, but you forge new relationships with new friends. Yeah, that are just as impactful as you are. You know what? Because to whom much is given, much is required. And really, I think our path on this planet is to just serve greater. So that's what I'm going to continue to try to do. And thank you so much for your inspiration. And dreamers, yes, I know it's sad we have to come to a close, but all good things must come to an end, but not a permanent end. We will be back. I encourage you to subscribe, listen, this is a community where we do need support. So come on and subscribe, follow us on social media. Nicole, if anybody wants to know what you're doing, where can they find you?
Well, they can totally find me on all platforms at Nicole Edits. So that at symbol, Nicole Edits, 2 E's in the middle, and my website, NicoleFranklin.com.
Beautiful.
And I want to thank you, Sherri. Great questions, great conversation. This was just wonderful. I had a fun time. This was awesome.
I am so glad. Listen, when you come on Dreamers Unite, I want to have some fun. I'm trying to bring more joy into the world, and I'm trying to even bring more joy into my life, but also with obviously giving some great nuggets, wisdom, and really this in the studio, as I told you about Dreamers Unite in the studio, it's all about entertainment and the impact that entertainment and the vast careers that's in entertainment. And so many people don't know. Like, again, people always think when you're in entertainment, you could be starving, you're freelancing, you don't have a real job, what are you doing, right? But it's really understanding that you're not only making a difference in your own life, but how many people you can impact on this planet and how many careers. It's vast out here, people, entertainment, everything is about entertainment. So on that note, listen, dreamers, I will see you again next time. Please, again, support us, follow us, like us, and I always appreciate when you come and spend time with me. And you know how to get in touch with me. So I'm Sherri Pullum. I'm signing out, and I'll see you again.